2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
Let's have a conversation about boundaries.
Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin.
Brannon, it's good to see you today.
Good to see you, Tyler. You had quite the weekend.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend. It was great.
I mean, you were holding the baby in group last week. Like,
people are going to get so sick of my poor grandchild.
Here's the thing. Like, you on our dad's side were the first grandchild. And so it was like, you know, everyone just loved Tyler. Tyler's the greatest, blah, blah. By the time I came around, I was like the third.
It's like, oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, what's that kid's name?
What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they have another one?
Yeah. Like, oh, wait. Yeah. Is that a boy or girl? Like, I don't know. But when the first one comes, the first grandbaby is just like, oh my God. Not to minimize. It's a big deal. It's awesome. There's nothing bigger than having a baby, especially a grandchild. But yeah, you know what? When you have like your fifth grandchild, I'm gonna celebrate it. I'm gonna come up and be like, hey, yes, like hold this baby. I love this baby.
When my fourth daughter has her first baby, it'll be like the 13th grandchild. That's when you're gonna be like, I'm traveling out there. I'm gonna come see her. Like,
yeah, like what number? That's number 11. Like, I'm there. I am there. Yeah, for sure. My heart goes out to those forgotten children.
You can relate.
Yeah, I can relate. My heart goes out. So I'm there for you, children.
The future grandchildren don't get all the extra attention.
I love the children. Yes.
Like our grandparents, by the time any of us started rolling around, we were like in the 20s somewhere. And it's like, oh yeah, they're like, yeah, we're going to go do some other church service and other stuff.
Oh, on the Harris side, they're like, wait, what was your name? Whose child are you from? Like, and that's okay. That's all right. You know,
that's not how it is right now, though, man. It was. I got to go out there this weekend, and it was awesome. I can't tell you how. You just have to experience it to have that. It's like a massive shift goes on in your heart when you get your hands on that grandchild for the first time and realize a whole bunch of different things about life that didn't seem important are, and things that seemed important really aren't anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, it was really cool. It was a great weekend.
Yeah. That's awesome, Tyler. Um, well, I'll talk about your grandbaby for as much as you want. I'm good with it. So, but look, let's talk about one of my other favorite topics, which is boundaries. Um, I just wanted to have a really open dialogue with you, Tyler, about boundaries and just kind of free flow it a little bit. We don't have a ton planned, but I want to have a discussion. I want to dive into it. I think that boundaries are quite often completely misunderstood, and like when we say one thing, we're meaning another, but it's heard as something else, and so I just want to just have this conversation to at least, and maybe we're different, maybe we're the same, Tyler, but really flush out what are boundaries, what are healthy boundaries.
Yeah, we get. I think one of the blessings of not having a caller for this hour today, which, by the way, if you'd like to be a caller, we would love to have you. Therapybrothers.org. We would love to have you come on and talk about your own boundaries instead of Brannon and I talking about it. One of the blessings is that we get this question all the time. We get boundaries questions all the time, and we kind of hit it in the episodes a bit. Once in a while, I'll do a specific, topic on it like we're going to do today, but it's overdue. We haven't done one in a while. So, yeah, we're going to jump into talking all things boundaries today and really trying to flesh out what makes effective boundaries, what they are, and also what they are not.
Right, right. So let's start there a little bit. Let me throw some things past you, and maybe we can use these examples as we get into this to see what a boundary actually is. And some of the we see some really common ones, like, for example, my boundary is that you go to therapy. Is that a boundary? Is that a healthy boundary?
No.
Right. I agree. But why? I'm going to get you in trouble here.
I just tried to throw it back in your court for a second. So yeah.
I didn't let you. I had a boundary.
Yeah. 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 So your example is lacking in a few things that make a good boundary a good boundary. So, boundaries work from the inside out. Now, I say that, and I'm going to go and actually kind of almost sound like I'm, being a paradox on this, but
It is a paradox.
when you look at boundaries, you look at both things. You look at internal boundaries and external boundaries. So internal boundaries are things that I'm looking at inside myself and holding myself to certain kinds of standards, values, boundaries in terms of wanting to be congruent with the way that I'm living, right? External boundaries are born from some of the same internal places, which would be my values, but they have an impact on the people around me based off of what I'm going to do around those values. So with your example, the reason it's not a very healthy boundary is that ultimately you don't have control over whether or not I go to therapy.
Right.
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 And I don't know what your reasons are for saying that, but I'm guessing that you're saying that because you want to feel like in control, or you want to feel safe, or you want to feel something. But you need to spell out what you are actually looking for, and then make sure that your boundary is reinforcing the thing you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the way you kind of said that and outlined that is, and you can hear it in what you were saying is, if my boundary is I need you to go to therapy, then I'm over attached to you to live in my congruency. So
I'm basically at your mercy for
Yeah.
for my life and for my happiness.
right. So here I am handing this to you to say, this needs to happen in order for me to be okay. And Tyler, one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is that boundaries are so much more, like so much bigger than just like, this is what works for me and this is what doesn't. It's living. It's about integrity. It's about living in your integrity. It's about authenticity. And when relationships come along and they ask you to let go of that, to sell out with your truths, that's when you're not living in your boundaries. That's when you start to have torment in your soul, because you're sacrificing yourself and your truths and your integrity for the relationship. But this is really, it gets really complex and really difficult, because what do you know? We talk about this all the time, Tyler. Relationships are very important to us. And so it puts us in this dilemma quite a bit, especially when you're dealing with family and friends who struggle with addiction and things like that, where it's like, okay, I'm trying to salvage this relationship, but I also know that it's taking my integrity away. What do I do here? And so what I want to do is go over to them and say, let me change you so that I can control you, so that I can stay in my integrity and you cannot break my boundaries anymore. But what you said is so important, Tyler. I don't have control over them. Right?
Yeah, it's actually, what you just outlined is actually something that I think we see a lot. And there's a lot of like empathy and understanding here. We find ourselves often in a catch-22 based off of what you just said, where I want to be able to live according to my values, and I want to live in a relationship where I'm accepted and loved exactly as I am in those values. And I'm also wired for connection and attachment. And now when I'm in a relationship, especially when there's been some kind of a breach in the relationship where, let's say, there has been some betrayal or some lack of trust, that shakes the foundation of the need to be connected. And what we often do without knowing it is we sacrifice our values for the sake of connection. And we do that a little bit at a time until all of a sudden we have this internal problem in ourselves going like, either I resent the other person because I feel like they're making me not live my values, or I'm resenting myself, or I'm feeling less confident in myself, or I lose my sense of self. And what I've done is I've slowly paid the price of my values and my identity for trying to keep the connection. And most people will default to that.
Yeah.
Without even knowing that they're doing it. And so what boundaries are is they become something more than just this like hammer that you use in a relationship. I like what you said, and there's some words that we should attach to boundaries when people are thinking about this. You said some of them. Boundaries are not, and they're not power and control, but that's the place we go to when the attachment has been strained.
Right.
So now we're trying to use a relationship based on power and control, trying to get connection, and that rarely works. It usually yields a lot of tiredness, a lot of exhaustion, and a lot of resentment.
Boundaries are based from a place of like truth and stepping into your power. Like you're grounded, you're centered, you know who you are, and so you hold firm to your integrity, and it can be scary, but it feels empowering. That's the opposite of, I'm in a lot of fear, and so I need to control you in order for me not to be in fear anymore. That's not acting in your truth. That's acting from a place of survival and in your fear. And what you just said is true, Tyler. When the foundation of relationship has been damaged, the knee-jerk reaction is to operate in those ways. And a lot of times what happens is right when somebody is in a relationship that's been damaged by betrayal, by addiction, whatever, they go to therapy and they're told you need boundaries. And then the boundaries that they're taught or shown is all about stepping further into that fear cycle, which exacerbates the problem even more. And and it's just not boundaries. Those aren't boundaries. They do need boundaries. That's true. They need actual healthy boundaries.
Right. And we say this on our show fairly often. Most people can get behind what a boundary is in terms of setting up protective forces for myself. Right. Like it's like setting up the boundaries, the wall, the perimeter around your home base.
Sure.
Right. What most people have a harder time understanding is that in doing that, what you're doing is you're spelling out who I am. And that is also an invitation to the right people who want to live the same values to enter into that same space with you. Right.
Yeah.
So it's as much an invitation as it is a wall. It's actually, it can be both.
Healthy boundaries destroy toxic relationships. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I think one of your favorite quotes is healthy boundaries invite connection.
That's right.
When I'm showing up with healthy boundaries, when I'm showing up authentic, I'm vulnerable. And those people that love me and see me and know me will want to attach. But those people that don't want to love me will there will be boundaries there, and it will affect our relationships in those ways. So yeah, boundaries change relationships, and I believe for the better, because you're actually operating from a place where you can create connection as a result of those healthy boundaries.
That's right.
Tyler, I want to back up a little bit, something you were talking about earlier. There's a type of boundary that I think people don't see or they misunderstand. Let me give you some examples here. If I okay, here's one for you. I go home and my son's mad at me, and he's just had a hard day and he's taking it out on me. And so I crumble and I think I'm the world's worst dad, and I wallow in my shame all night long. What's the broken boundary there, or what's the problem with boundaries there?
Well, I think you're already, again, with what I was saying earlier, you're already losing your shape in terms of knowing who you are. And now you're living a story of shame, which then leads you into a place of whatever you did. You disappeared and weren't actually engaged in your son's life, or maybe you overperformed and like went and tried to make the peace with him. You're not my dad anymore. And you're like, oh, like I better hurry and scramble and make him my dad again. Or here's an example, Brannon, of the same principle that just happened to us a couple of weeks ago. All right. We got a review that was like a negative review, which, by the way, we love you guys' reviews. So thank you. But I
even like the negative ones, but please don't send them. But I like to hear them.
Yeah. So actually, I'm actually gonna read this and then talk about boundaries. I promise I'll land my plane. All right.
Okay. I'll give you a moment.
Okay. Give me a short leash if you need to. But
okay.
I really like Brannon and Patrick as individuals and enjoyed meeting with them on the Rising Sun retreat.
You didn't even get your name right.
I think it's just, I have two first names. That happens all the time.
I know it does.
Yeah. Okay.
Happens to us all the time.
But one of the main challenges I have with the podcast is it is almost exclusively focused on married couples. If you are single and struggling with addiction, they don't really have much to say for you. How do you approach dating if you're in recovery? How do you see value in yourself if you struggle with addiction? When do you come clean about your addictive struggles as you begin dating someone? These are all great questions. As a single person, this show feels more like a scared straight program for marriage. So many stories of marriages breaking up, so many stories struggling to get forgiveness, etc. Listening to this podcast makes me question whether a relationship or marriage is even worth it, and why I'm trying hard to make it happen in my life. I walk away far more discouraged about the prospect of marriage than encouraged. Fair.
Yeah.
That's a great thought. Number one, I'm sad that you're feeling so overwhelmed and discouraged by that. I get that. I understand that. Now here's where the boundaries work comes in. When I read that review, what went through me instantly
Defensiveness? I don't know what.
It was actually the same thing that you just described about your son thinking you're a bad dad.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I'm going to get on and do a whole episode and I'm going to answer all of his questions.
Is this your way of doing it?
Like, yeah, here we go. So here we go. I'm going to tell you the answer to all your questions. No, like, so, but that was the response. Like, oh, I hate that this person's hurting. Like, they asked some good questions. Every one of those questions would be a great topic for a podcast. Right. And I got on and I was by myself that week and I was actually going to answer all the questions. And then I caught myself and I thought, I'm doing this from the wrong energy in the wrong place. Right. And what the healthy boundary, I think, is for me, in order for me to keep my form, is to say, hey, thank you for the review, number one. Number two, I'm really sad that you're hurting and that's been your experience with us. It's true. We do a lot of couple stuff and some of it's not very fun or pretty sometimes. And number three, I would love to have a discussion on any one of those topics, but I'm not going to answer them when they're delivered in this format. So come on the show and we'd love to have a conversation with you.
All right. Okay. And why? So what's underneath that boundary? So I just heard you just kind of laid the line in the sand there. So what's the principle, I guess, underneath that?
So there you go. Good. So now we're building off of what boundaries should be, right? They should be based off of values and principles, right?
Right.
I don't want to reward what I perceive as unhealthy behavior by a passive aggressive asking of questions through a negative review. That's
okay. So what do you value here? What are you protecting?
I value respectful communication. I value healthy conflict management. I value a real conversation with a real person. And I don't want to reinforce someone staying in victim mode by going and actually answering all of those questions when it came through the way that it did.
Which you would do if you took your frustration.
Well, and I also
just turned around and did an episode.
I also value acting in my own strength and in my own authenticity rather than from my own fear. And I know that my knee-jerk reaction was to answer from my own fear and my own like insecurities.
Right.
So I don't want to do that. It doesn't mean that I couldn't answer those questions. Maybe we will on a different episode someday. But I want to
hopefully when this person comes on.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
But I want to make sure that I'm also in the right energy to do that. That is, I have a heart to answer this question rather than, oh, I better hurry and scramble because somebody was mad at me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you're acting from this place of shame, ultimately, right? Like I got to fix this. I don't know. Versus like stopping, not over attaching. This person might have just had a bad day. Like,
yeah.
Who knows
sure that's
what
what
happened?
it was.
Or we talked about something that really triggered something. I don't know.
That happens a lot.
Right. Like why do we need to take that personally? And that right there, what I just said, that is the boundary, is knowing where that person stops and I begin. And once and you can see the boundary there. They are an entity unto themselves.
And it's okay for them to think and feel exactly how they
everything that they think and everything that they feel is okay. And it's not an indictment on me or on you. And when we know that, we can still hear feedback. We can still listen, but it doesn't define us. So when it doesn't define us, then we get to say, okay, what does define us? Who am I? What are my truths here? And how do I show up and when I say powerful, I mean powerful in a good way, like God's power inside of you, the truth. How do I show up in the most powerful, productive way that helps, and for me, that helps spread peace and love here, right?
That's the goal, right?
Yeah, and so like
that's your values. What you're speaking are your values,
right? And I make this sound so easy and altruistic, but the fact of the matter is like when you have. Let me give you an example. Let's say you worked a long, hard day, like difficult, and you get home and none of the kids have like cleaned up anything. It's a mess. And your wife's mad at you about something and like all of this stuff. And you walk in there and you're exhausted and you're supposed to hold true to form. You're supposed to sit in your integrity, not take things personally. And let's say there's a background of all kinds of like frustration or whatever, and you're supposed to stay firm, right? It can be really, really difficult in those moments where you cave and you turn around and you act in ways like you don't want to. You act in your anger, or you shut down, or you give the power to the relationship because you just don't have it to give, right? So
Everything you just described would be examples of me crossing my own boundaries for myself.
okay, explain that.
Well, because every one of those things that you just described is outside of my value system. So I'm human. We all do this sometimes. I go home and yell at the kids occasionally, unfortunately. I don't like to. But that's against my value system. So when I act against my value system, I'm actually crossing my own boundaries.
Right. Tyler, we read the book Extreme Ownership, and I actually really liked that book. But it's that principle, right? Like I can go home and I can walk into that house that's just a total like shiz show, whatever. And I can back up and say, okay, it's my responsibility to step up and live in my integrity and in my values. It doesn't matter what storm is going on here. I don't want to yell at my kids. I don't want to have the energy of disdain toward people. I don't want to be a jerk. I don't, so I'm going to be boundaried, and I'm going to show up the best way I possibly can. Right.
That's right. And that's based off of the person that when I look in the mirror, that's who I want to be. Right. When I'm looking at setting a boundary, the very first thing I have to ask is when I go to bed tonight and I look myself in the mirror, can I sleep on a clear conscience?
Right.
And
right.
If the answer to that is yes, then you're probably at least in the beginning places of where your boundaries would be most effective. Now,
right.
where another place where this gets tricky for people, and this is really, really difficult, is that we don't live in a black and white crisp world like that. There's a lot of middle ground and gray area. And in boundaries work, the same thing is true, where in an effort to try to protect one or two or three values on one direction, I feel like I'm sacrificing other values that are also important.
They compete right? all the time.
I value fidelity in marriage. I value hanging in there for the long run. I also value honesty and safety. Now my partner's betraying me. I need to figure out how to protect the need for honesty and safety while also honoring the fact that I really value like staying for the long haul and giving it my best shot, right? That's where people come into conflict, is trying to figure out how do I merge what feel like conflicting values into a set of boundaries that I can live with and like what I see in the mirror when I go to bed at night.
And what you're describing, Tyler, that's the refiner's fire. Like that's where you really get to figure out who you are and know yourself. And in those moments, like I don't think it's necessarily like the most important thing to know exactly what your truth is. I think the most important thing is to know how to get to your truth. Is to know how in those moments to stop, to pause, to connect to God, to understand yourself, and then act accordingly. Because in all those moments they are nuanced. There's gray area. There's right, and so like for example, Tyler, if I'm talking to one person, I might show up a certain way because of who they are, versus if I'm talking to another person and I'm authentic with both of them, but I'm just responding to the situation with them, right? It's not that I'm not authentic. It's just that I'm reading the room and being honest about what's going on with that interaction with that person.
That's right. And being, I think part of what you're talking about, Brannon, this is why we talk so much about building a lifestyle that includes regular mindfulness, is becoming conscious of the choices that I'm making rather than just being reactive or a victim to circumstance. So if I spell out and I go, you know what, man, I'm being cheated on almost weekly. My partner's not getting any better, but we've got 4 kids. My partner's a great parent. I'm going to probably be emotionally disconnected because I can't engage with someone who's going to keep betraying my trust that way. But I also value staying in a marriage for the long haul. And I also value our kids being able to have that relationship. I'm going to choose that consciously, and that's still going to come with an immense amount of pain, but at least it's a choice. I'm still now owning my decisions to do what I choose to do with all of the consequences that come with it. And that makes us like, by owning the choice itself and being conscious of what we're signing up for, in a weird way, we suffer less. And that's why outlining what are the values here why am I so torn up about this and why do I feel so stuck? It's probably because there's 2 sets of values that have me feeling stuck, because I feel like if I go one way, I'm betraying another set. But if I'm conscious, I'm like, all right, this is everything that's in play. My self-respect is going to be really difficult to keep my self-respect if I do this, this, and this. But I think in this situation, I value X, Y, and Z more.
Exactly.
Or DBT spells it out really simply. They say that we interact with people for 3 primary reasons. 1 is to just get what we want. 2 is to maintain our sense of self and keep our self-respect. And 3 is to try to build connection. And in any situation, one of those 3 will likely rise to the top above the other 2, even though they might all be important. So if I go into the car dealership, I just want to get a good deal and get what I want. I might use some of the other connection pieces and self-respect pieces to get that, but that's the primary thing. Whereas when I go home tonight, what I'm really wanting is just some deep intimacy and connection with my wife and a good discussion. I'm probably going to put connection above maybe the other 2, even though those will still be important. But I need to know what I'm choosing and why.
Well, I think in the society that we live in, what naturally is taught is that relationship is the most important thing. And so our self-respect and our objectives get thrown out quite easily. And like there is an epidemic of resentment in the world that we live in, and a lack of authenticity. And like right now, Tyler, you talk about this interpersonal situation. I'm in one right now. And it's complex. It's tricky. What's interesting is you say one of them rises to the top. Well, this relationship's an important relationship. I see this person a lot. I'm connected to this person in many different ways. But the objective is rising to the top here. And
in your current situation,
in my current situation with this person, the objective is, I know it. I want the objective to not be at the top, because it's easier to sell out and keep the peace in the relationship. But there's no way around it. Like I can't deny that I need to do what I need to do in order for this objective to get met. And I know it's going to affect that relationship. And that's hard. I think we a lot of times get put in these situations and it's like, well, what do I say? Or how do I actually tell them no? How do I actually, right? But it's important. If you can't be the person who can say no, or you can't be the person to say, I need this, then that the other people in your life, they don't know you.
Yeah.
They don't trust you. You're not honest. And if you're not healthily boundaried, you're not showing up honest.
Yeah, it comes back to what you said before, that the best boundaries, they allow room for people to enter into each other's space, but the best relationships are where everyone involved knows where I end and you begin, and we each accept that in one another.
Tyler, I might be driving this home a little hard here, but I just think it needs to be understood. I can tell you several different sessions that I've done where, let's say a woman is sitting on my therapy couch and then her husband walks in, sees her sitting there, and he looks down to the floor. You can just feel his shame and his fear around the relationship and the situation to sit there in the therapy office, and nothing has been said. Nothing. We're not discussing anything, and I'm already picking up on poor boundaries in that relationship, and it's an energetic thing.
And in that case, it sounds like the poor boundaries are based off of an energy of shame and fear, rather than an energy of authenticity.
It's a this example is, he looks at her as his God, where he gets all of his self-worth, and so he doesn't know where he stops and she begins. He over attaches and consumes her, and for that reason he's scared of her. And can you see the broken boundaries here? This codependent attachment that they have going on creates all kinds of problems from it. But the lack of boundary is simply both of them knowing, I'm okay unto myself. I love myself. I trust myself. I know who I am. Therefore, I can look you in the eye. I can be honest with you. I can be authentic in our relationship. So you can see how the shame corrodes underneath, creates that over attachment or that codependency, creates the resentment, creates all the problems.
Yeah, shame corrodes a sense of self, and the values and the sense of self start to go, and then that leads to either more shame or more resentment and less connection, which is what we're trying to go for in the first place in most of our relationships.
I know, isn't that crazy? How we shoot ourselves in the foot.
It's weird. It's so weird how we're so scared of being rejected that we betray who we are to try to be accepted, and then people don't want to be with us because we're not authentic.
I know, it's crazy.
Instead of just letting ourselves work really hard on being okay with knowing ourselves really well and inviting the right people in this world to find us and be in our space with us.
And that is not being unloving and not being like connected to others' feelings, but it's that space where I'm connected to your feelings and I care about you, but I'm also honest and I know who I am.
Yeah. And I can even acknowledge that who I am and the way I'm showing up in the world does have an impact on you. Right. And I can be sensitive to that. I can understand that. Like, I know that I'm not for everybody. Like, it's just the truth. Right?
I don't know. Your poems go out to a wide audience. Yeah.
Hey, the poems land on a wide audience. I mean,
I've surveyed the audience. It's something like 40% love it.
Only 40%?
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's not nearly enough. I need more approval than that. So, but it's funny though, Brannon, because like that's something that has been the case. I think we watch it with our clients over and over again, and this is what's hard, is that's why it's called recovery. In a lot of ways, we're recovering the truth of who we already were. And then the world came in and our life experiences and other people told us that we were somebody that we actually weren't. Yeah. And then we tried to peg hole ourselves into that instead of just accepting the truth of who we were and it's that whole Greatest Showman, "This Is Me" song, right? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, this is me. And I probably will. The beautiful thing about that is that it sifts people out really quickly. Like you'll get rid of the people who you're not supposed to connect to really quickly, but you'll also invite the right people in really quickly too.
Yep. So yep. This is, I could talk boundaries all day, Tyler. I think that when you grasp this, when you get it, that's when you're really stepping into real recovery. And so I love talking about it.
I tried to hit it earlier. We did get a comment here while we were live that just says, if you don't have boundaries, how can you cross them? I don't know if that's a statement or a question, but
yeah, I don't know what that means.
But it's true. I mean, we all cross our boundaries from time to time because we're human beings.
Yeah.
So key takeaways for, I think, our conversation today is the work of radical self-acceptance and complete honesty and authenticity is actually right in line with good boundaries work. And understanding who you are and what your values are, and then showing up inside of those values, inside of your life and your relationships, make the bones of good boundaries. Then the last thing that I would say that we didn't quite get to as much is the follow through on a boundary is my choice of what I'll do when my values are either upheld or walked over.
Yep.
So I'm the one who's choosing to do or not do something instead of dictating what everyone else has to do or what the world has to do.
You want to see good boundaries? Study Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and Jesus. Right? So they got it figured out. So, all right, Tyler, that was fun. If this was helpful, please share it. We could use a few good reviews to counteract some of the negative ones. So don't be shy to go leave us a review. We would really love to have you come on the show too, honestly. Therapybrothers.org. Bring any question you want. Brannon, I would love to have a conversation with you. Yep. And until next time, keep on keeping on.